Have you ever been told your child is too much, too sensitive, too emotional, too defiant, too hard to manage? And somewhere along the way, you started wondering if you were the problem. If you've ever sat in a meeting with teachers, specialists, or caregivers feeling confused, overwhelmed, or quietly blamed, this episode is for you. Because what if your child isn't difficult? What if they're communicating something we haven't been taught how to hear? Today's guest is a parent, foster parent, and behavioral specialist who knows this world personally. She's lived the labels, changed the systems, and discovered what actually helps kids who are misunderstood, overwhelmed, or written off too early. We're talking about behavior as communication, sensory needs, nervous systems, and why fixing the behavior without understanding the child never works. So if you're a parent who's tired of quick fixes, guilt, and being told to just try harder, stay with us. This conversation might change the way you see your child and yourself.
Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we're actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can all still be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it.
Welcome, Dr. B, to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Alyssa. I'm so happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So I am a behaviorist by trade. I actually go into school districts and I work with school professionals. I also work with families in their homes on how to deal with certain behavioral challenges that might be occurring. And I got into this field primarily because my oldest child, I have 4 children, really struggled. By the time he was 18 months old, he was asked to leave 3 different daycare establishments because of his intense behavior. In personally, that was a huge blow to me. I really felt like I was defective as a parent and didn't really, I just really just felt horrible about the whole situation with that. And we had gone and visited this school one day that was this sensory-based school setting, and I was definitely more excited about it than him. And I was like, I could play here all day. And it was fabulous. And he did amazingly well. And by the time he was about 8 years old, he was discharged from special ed, and was able to graduate normally with his class and was excellent, does great. He's an adult at this point and that sort of thing. So during my journey with him, I really would say, gosh, he's struggling with this. What do I need to learn about? Struggling with that. What do I need to learn about? And I became a foster parent, and many of the children I had living with me were struggling with attachment issues, as well as sensory issues, as well as, post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that. So it really gave me the opportunity to learn about so many different fields and how I could support children and families, as well as do the work that I'm doing within school districts also.
I love the approach of this is what somebody's dealing with. What can I learn about it?
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm filtering like all of the reasons people believe that they can't do that. Can you give me a snapshot of what was going on in your life? Like, were you working, not working? Were you stay at home? Like
I,
what?
yeah.
What was going on in your life at that time?
When he was about 18 months old, I was working full time for an organization that did disability training in school districts. I was bartending a couple nights a week also. And my other son is only a year apart from him. So I had these 2 boys, And he was just really just struggling constantly at that time. And I remember I had him evaluated and they said, this is what this is what's actually going on, and so on and so forth. And they said, your best bet is probably to put him on Ritalin, and no judgment towards what you need to do in the journey you take with your child. But to me, I was like, there has to be another way. This is my first option. You're giving me this as the first option for my child. I'm just not comfortable with that. And so because of that, I started working with experts and really training under a number of people. I had found that school soon after that. And I said, I need to get better at being a better mom to him so that I can support him to be the most functional human being and the happiest, well-adjusted human being he can become.
And so you were in school or you were working
I was
in,
working. Yeah. Yep.
okay.
And prior to that, I was actually a teacher. So
Okay. And that was another thought that kind of went through my head is like the, depending on how you talk to yourself, self-abuse room that's going on with I'm a special ed teacher and my 18-month-old child is being kicked out of
everything. Yeah.
his third
I,
daycare, I think you said.
yeah. And I'm almost every activity he participated in. But a lot of it was he just had a ton of energy. He was an extremely energetic young child, and I wasn't equipped to do what I need to do. And I think as parents, how many times do we feel like we're not equipped? Usually on a daily basis. And it's
Can I
really
raise my hand? Can I raise both hands? Just
clarify. And it's a lot of the saying, it's just what I don't know yet. And I have to learn those things and become that. And I'm pretty oppositional defiant in general. So as soon as somebody tells me we don't think you can do that, that's not going to work. I'm going to prove my goal then is to prove it wrong.
they're all oppositional defiance is bad. That's just how we feel it.
Exactly. So, and I
Training as the parent, I'm sure when your child is oppositionally defiant.
yeah. And I struggled a lot as a student growing up too. I had a really hard time, had very high anxiety, although I'd never heard of that word as a youth, and really found it extremely challenging. I had any illness that was in the book, I had it, and I would be out of school for weeks on end. And most of it was just anxiety. And I never really realized it until I was almost out of high school. But I used to be like in school, as long as the sport was in session, soon as it would be between sports, oh, I've got mono, or I've got strep throat, or I threw my back out, or I did this, or I did that. And I just wouldn't go to school for weeks at a time and had massive anxiety about it. So, when I work with families and with students who they're like, my kid won't leave the house, my kid's selective mute, or my kid, won't try these new things. I can really feel for them because I know what it's like. I've been there myself, and then having a child who is the exact opposite, who I'd come home and be like, do you really need to jump off the roof of the house into the pool? Is that a great idea? Well, mom, we figured it out how to do it safe.
Yeah.
Great things go together, safe and jumping off the roof, but
And not in my world particularly, luckily our pool is far enough from the house that that's not an option and I don't have to deal with that. But the trying new things rings a bell for me because, um, my son is, I just know that there's a lot of things that you can learn from sports. And my son's just really not, I mean, I was never into it. His dad really was, but I was more of an influence. And so I think that, his first experience in T-ball was not a great one because he was a rule follower and the other kids weren't. And that was negatively impacting him. And so then T-ball was out the window, and then soccer, the same thing, basically. He didn't get the opportunity to have the ball, and so that he had a meltdown. And then I wasn't good at controlling my meltdowns when he would have a meltdown, and so it was a whole big thing.
Yeah.
And So now I'm like, well, you're older and you actually are enjoying the the softball at in school when they're playing for PE. So why don't we try that? And he's kind of pushing back on it. And but yesterday we were talking about parkour, which is the male friendly version of gymnastics. And he's like, "Mom, this is my sport." And I'm like, I mean, I can't argue with him there. Like he has he enjoyed this.
Yeah,
And we're just-
and all that. But you gotta say it the parkour way, like, "Fork," you know?
yeah, you can't just say parkour.
Parkour. Like you're asking for or something at the same time. Yeah, my
Like
young
that.
you're coughing at the same time, but my
Yeah.
young she is not the poor thing, like, we adopted her. She was a few weeks old when she was placed with us, and she is not into sports. She is not into stuff like that. She's much more introverted, more of an observer. She really lives in that limbic part of the brain. So, yeah, those rule breakers, she's like, Mom, this kid did this, and then they did this, and she'll remember it for years that they did those things wrong and everything. You know, but if I'm sitting down doing like yoga or something like that, like she's my girl. She's sitting here this morning and she's got her feet touching the back of her head, flipped back. And I was like, okay. And I was like, she's like, can you do that? I was like, no, that's a special type of person in their 50s that can do that, honey.
So they had been doing it since they were your age.
I'm like, you keep practicing that because we lose some of that flexibility as we age. So
Yeah, we were around our house. My son and I, neither of us can touch our toes, and my husband can. And so, he's like, I have to, or I can't move throughout the day. Like, I have to do that every single day, or my back seizes up. So I
yeah.
stretch.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't think I've ever touched my toes without bending my knees, and I know my mom's that way, and so was my grandpa. My grandma could fold in half until the day she died. Like she was totally, I don't know about over her head necessarily. She she could touch her toes. That was not a problem.
It is somewhat genetic, like the widow's peak and all that. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
Stupid genetics. Can't we just like put even playing field for everybody?
You never know though. My 12-year-old was also adopted, and it's so funny because my 22-year-old son, myself, and her, we all have the exact same facial expressions. You can predict how we're going to react in situations. We're very, very similar. And people will say, even though she's a different ethnicity, and they'll say, she's not yours biologically. And I'm like, I know. Who would have thought that she would have acted this much like us, even though she's adopted? But it's, nature versus nurture, they play important roles.
Yep, absolutely. And I think I'm about to ask ChatGPT to give me a stretching routine that'll get me and my son touching our toes by next summer or something.
It'll be like step one, do this.
You're right. I did ask it, not that we'll get off topic on this or anything. It was like, listen, I live at 300 elevation, 300. I'm going to 5,000 in
Ooh.
3 weeks. I need an exercise routine I already get winded if I walk too fast. So can we give me something? And that's on flat land. So can we give me something to help me with? Give me
Yeah.
my 3 week plan.
You should practice some oxygen deprivation exercises before you go. Like even just simply holding your breath will be helpful, and doing it consciously so that you're inflicting it on your body instead of it being inflicted onto your body without your control and that sort of thing. But the breath exercises and things like that can help tremendously. Practice breathing like just through your nose and things like that as much as you possibly can before you go. That'll help adjust it so the headache isn't quite so horrific when you get there.
Yeah, mostly I just get winded. But I get winded just, you know, any kind of exercise. So, I'm working on that, but, it did talk about doing 4-6 breathing, so in for 4 and out for 6. So, maybe I'll add a little holding my breath in the meantime. Yep. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
What advice would you give to a mom who's struggling with the child being removed from certain programs?
Well, first of all, give yourself some grace. Every parent, when we get that call, man, the school calls, and you're like, you answer the phone like this, hello, and you almost want to say, no, she's not here. Like, isn't this your cell phone? You like, you feel the amount of guilt and shame that we take on as parents. And I feel this for the students in my programs also. But the amount of guilt and shame that we take on when our child has done something that, we feel shouldn't happen and that sort of thing. Like, give yourself some grace, allow yourself to have a moment and just let it go for a second and say, it's okay. I'm not a bad parent. I didn't do something wrong just because this happened. Many of these are just learning experiences. So after you give yourself a little internal hug and those sorts of things, try to view it from the perspective of it's a learning experience and that sort of thing too, because oftentimes kids are testing those things and they need to figure out what's going on. And many times it's not for intent of malice, whatever it may be, whether it's the kid ran out of class, whether they might have hit another child or something like that. There's a backstory behind it. And figuring out what that backstory is really vital. And a lot of times kids don't want to share that because I think there's going to be repercussions. Or they bring in other elements of it that don't necessarily aren't a part of that story, thinking that's the information that you want to hear because they want to avoid getting into trouble and those sorts of things. And so asking them some questions about what might have happened, give them some open-ended questions. Hey, I heard today was rough. What's up? And just, ending that end of the voice, making it go up an octave so that they are not feeling like it's trouble. You're just asking them for information. Once you gather some information, then you can kind of go from there and figure out what needs to be done. But getting that information is really important because sometimes things happen that might not make sense to us and to the adults, but make perfect sense to the child, to the individual. I'd worked with a student for a while and they had brought me in and said, he keeps hitting the teacher and we can't figure out why. We're thinking we need to put him in another program, so on and so forth. And after doing some digging, I found out that this individual thought that somehow the teacher made the other two students that moved that year disappear. In his mind, that was the perception. So anytime the teacher came near him, he was trying to hit her to get her away from him because in his mind, if she came over and touched him, he was going to disappear.
Oh,
And he had just thought, oh, he's become physically aggressive and so on and so forth. But if we can't figure out what the meaning is behind the behavior, then we can't help support where that person's going to go. And just saying, oh, hitting's wrong, no hitting. This child was fearful that they were, somehow he was going to disappear from his family and from all of his friends and those sorts of things. But there's oftentimes expect to be surprised. There's things that come up that are surprising, and
yeah.
that's a good thing.
It's a good reminder. We've talked on the podcast in the past about, to stay curious with our children. And I think that there's like a set, like where these are the reasons that people usually do things. And so I'm angry, so I hit you. But so we kind of get stuck in that. But if we could literally look at all of our children's behaviors and with curiosity and assume that that has never happened to any person on the face of the planet. So there are no reasons that we're aware of that would happen. And then come to it from that point. I was talking with a client of mine who has twins and they're 10 years old and their suitcases are identical. And the boy twin grabbed the girl twin suitcase, and she flipped out and immediately started hitting him. And and so I taught her something that I call the 5-finger framework, where we go from the thing that happens to the reaction that we have, and what happens in between is the thought, the judgment, and then the feeling that leads, and those things lead to the reaction. But we don't know that those 3 things are happening because they happen like that.
Mhm.
And it goes from action to reaction. But if we can, after the fact, slow it down, wait, that was a weird reaction. What was my thought? What was my judgment? What was my feeling? Then we can understand our behavior a little bit more. And we can do that for our children
Yes.
and guide them through that. And that sounds kind of like what you're talking about.
And a lot of times things are, most of the time when something happens, it's not premeditated and it absolutely is a reaction. And well, we spend a lot of time working with kids, both in their homes as well as in schools, teaching them how to, like, you are powerful. You're a powerful human being. You have control over your body. And then oftentimes they'll share, I don't feel like I have control over these certain things. Well, let's talk about how you can have control. And we go into, you know, different areas that they can even control their autonomic nervous system through breaths, through things like that. So they are like, wow, I can make my body do these things instead of my body happening to me. And that's a huge part of it, is that they don't feel powerful. They don't feel like they have the control. They feel like everyone's making decisions for them. And for a large part, we need to. That's part of raising children. You know, you give them more options for making those decisions as they prove they can. And sometimes, they're going to make a poor judgment, and it is what it is. And you're going to let them, because it's a learning experience, and that they need to go through those steps as well in everything. But that's really critical for them to be able to do those things. I went to a conference a couple weeks ago. I took both of my daughters with me, which I normally only take one kid if I'm going to go away to a conference, but I took both, my 12-year-old and my 9-year-old. And I was like, you're probably going to be the only kids at the conference. So keep in mind, mom's Dr. B this day. She's not so much mom. So work with me here, you two. And so we were in the conference and we're watching this presentation. We got to see Martin Luther King III and his wife, who are amazing presenters. And my littler one can't figure out how to get her computer on the internet, and she's like, Mom, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this. And I said, I'm going to listen to this. You're going to need to figure this out. So think about what your options are to figure it out, and then talk to me about it in a second when you come up with at least 2 ideas. And so she taps me a few seconds later and she says, Jewel, that's her sister, she's on, so I can have her help me. I really don't want to do that, Mom. Or I can keep trying and do this, this, and this, or go out and ask people at the desk if they can help me get on. And I said, okay, that's great. Give it a try. And so she did. And she was able to actually get on before she had to ask her sister and go out and ask, which were both non-prefers for her. But she was able to get herself on. But just giving them the time to problem solve. It's so hard for us to do it in today's day and age because there's so many things to do. And it's so hard to let them problem solve through it and know that, especially when we know they're not going to be successful. I honestly didn't think she'd be able to get on her own. I was like, we're gonna be walking out there and asking those people to help us. But she didn't. She was able to problem solve through it and get it done. But that's tough. It's time consuming. And so many of us, we don't want to let our kids fail for periods of time. It's so hard. It feels like it's a reflection of us and of our family values and everything else when that happens. But it's a necessary part of learning and growth.
Yeah. That's been a struggle that we have at 13, in an age where the only thing we want to do is be on the computer playing video games with our friends, thinking of other things to do when we maxed out our limit on technology. And, Mom, give me ideas. And I'm like, actually, I'm kind of tired of giving you ideas because you shoot all of them down. And 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 I said, what I noticed is that you didn't ask me once if I wanted to do anything with you. You just assumed that I was going to say no. And sometimes I will say no because I have other things that are higher priorities right now, but you're not even asking and you're just assuming the no. And so you're having a pity party because you're an only child and there's no kids around for you to play with. And there are kids that live on our streets, but they're girls. Yeah. So,
Took one too.
so there's nobody to play with. um, so I love that tip of, think of two things on your own and then come to me. I like that idea. Is there a book that's been instrumental in your personal development journey?
Oh, it's funny because my staff and we send book suggestions constantly, and I probably read 1 to 2 books a week. And I always have a new thing I'm learning about each year. So I would say probably last year, I went through everything that Daniel Amen had written, his books on ADHD and in all of those areas and mental health support and all that. I went through all of his books. And then this past year, I've gone through all of Dr. Joe Dispenz's books, which I think are just amazing also. And I just read recently James Nestor's book, which is an outstanding book. His book, Breathe, is wonderful. Um, so I go through every year where I'm like learning and whatever new discipline I'm learning, I'm consuming all of the work from them. I'll give a shout out to Mac Fulfer too. Mac Fulfer is a face reading expert. And we work with Mac quite a bit. My staff all goes through training with Mac and that sort of thing. And that really deciphers the face based on your different facial features and, wrinkles you have on your face and all that fun stuff. You can actually read the person's history because it's written on their face. Like I can at you, listen, I know that you want to know what's going on with all the people around you. You're very concerned, like what's going on with my son? What's going on with this person, with that person? It's really important to you to know that they're okay and what's going on about them. And I know that because you have those nice curved eyebrows and they go past your eyes. So you typically follow through on everything that you say you're going to get done. You get it done. And they're pretty thick at the start as well as at the end. So you have intensity through most of the project. You might start to get tired of it towards the end of the project and say, "Hey, I wish this would end. I'm kind of done with it. I'm lacking motivation with it." And I can tell it's evident just in how your eyebrows are shaped. And that's true of every facial feature that we can go through and look at that. So Mac Fulfer's book, the amazing face reading book is a great book as well. So
You just unlocked a whole um, new interest for me now. Um,
and
I believe the light people pluck their eyebrows, though. What are you going to do with that?
well, they pluck them based on the type of person they want to look like. So my eyebrows are kind of heavily drawn in. So, but they're very thick at the beginning and then they kind of end. Why? Because I'm definitely the person that's like, oh, new shiny project. Yay. I'm so excited. It's so fabulous. I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it. And then like 3 months later, I'm like, can we be done? I'm bored with it now. So my attention span is very short. So, but I make them longer because I do finish everything I want to finish and I say I'm going to finish and everything else. So we do it the way we want to appear to the world.
Okay, I have more questions, but we'll talk off break. Where where listeners find you?
So the easiest way to find me is at thebehaviorbootcamp.com, or at Dr. B, the sensory expert on YouTube, probably.
Very cool.
Try to release
Information unlocked with the face thing. So
which comes in handy because oftentimes I'm coming into somebody's home who is at a point of desperation. They're calling me and saying, I don't know what else to do. I'm on this waiting list, that waiting list. My kid is doing this. Can you please come to my home and help me? I'm desperate. And I'm coming into their home or they're sending me a video and I'm meeting with them on Zoom. and I'm deciphering the behavior and giving them information and then telling them how to either integrate a different behavior that they want or how to eliminate that behavior. And so I have to build rapport with them super fast. So me being able to read their facial language and their body language and everything else helps me build rapport very quickly. And I can give them information. They can feel confident and trust in that information. And then they make it happen and it works. Yeah. No, it was to
There were
definitely.
there were several different ways that I thought you were gonna go with the looking at the face. Like, that TV show Lie to Me,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was
I
of
mean,
the
is trained in that field as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
And worked with Janine Driver a number of times. Yeah.
yeah. So there that, and then also, based on, like, the wrinkles of the person's face, how much they frown, how much they do this.
Yeah, I've got a ton. Yeah. So mine, it's like I have secret lines right here that shows that I hold secrets or I have a lot of secrets myself. I have the grief lines. Most of us have the grief lines once we're into our 20s or 30s right here. I have the mental um accomplishment lines. Those are the lines that go straight across the forehead and that sort of thing. I mean, and a lot of people like they get rid of that. They want the Botox. And I'm like, well, Botox is expensive, but I earned those. Months of school went into those. But it's not just traditional education either.
I call the in between the eyebrow one the WTF line.
Yeah, forced focus is the polite way to call it. Yep, the forced focus line. That means that you're trying to focus on something a lot of the time. Yeah, that forced focus line.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense with the
Yeah,
person I'm picturing with the forced focus line, but
yeah. Sometimes they have three little lines. If you ever see those three little lines, and that's the person that's pushing it a little bit too far. Like they're focusing so much in that they're having a challenge even getting to success with that. So they get that third line in between there.
yeah, that's way too
You'll
fascinating.
you'll look at people a totally different way now.
So when I was in massage school, I would look at people as like just muscles walking around. Like I would just see people's muscles everywhere. And that happened another time. I think when I became a coach, I would like look at people and be like, what kind of limiting beliefs does this person? And
Absolutely.
now I'm going to be looking at people and being like, oh, look at their eyebrows.
No, and because if someone has straight eyebrows, which most kids, you think about, they have straight eyebrows, that's the person that's like, just give me the facts and the information so I can make a decision. I don't need you to go into how it's connected to all these other people because my primary focus is typically me. And people who have this straight eyebrows, they just need the facts and information. So if you look at most kids under the age of like 10 or 12, they have straight eyebrows. Their eyebrow shape changes as they get older.
That's so fascinating. It was when I was in my direct sales company also when I doing skincare because I'd be like, oh, look at that wrinkle.
Yeah.
Look at that
Oh,
one.
yeah. And it's, for people, Mac always has, like, he says, yeah, salespeople. He says that he's doing classes for people in sales all the time. He's like, yeah, that is a huge area that they want to do it. For me, it's really about, I mean, I've studied with so many body language experts and people like that. And it's like, I just want to understand human behavior to the highest degree that I possibly can. So being able to read the face, facial action coding, Paul Ekman's work and stuff like that. I've done a lot of classes with them. Just understanding those pieces are critical because it gives you such a different picture when an incident happens, that sort of thing, versus just judging a behavior on what a behavior happens. It's never that simple. It's never that clear. There's always more behind it.
It's super fascinating. And I know this is an area of interest for me because there's a YouTube channel that kind of blew up when I think Will Smith, around the time that Will Smith slapped Jamie. Who was it?
It was Jamie Foxx, wasn't it? Was it Jamie Foxx or no?
No, was it Jamie Foxx? Anyway, nope. Chris Rock.
I thought say one of the questions grown-ups.
But yeah, when it was
And he did a play-by-play because everybody was saying it was fake, and so he did the breakdown of their facial expression, and I think that's what his channel, I don't know the name of it, but I'll put it in the link, just or the link in the description just in case people are in. And my he's always like, "I can't hide anything from you ever, Bethany. You know, as soon as I walk into the room, like, exactly what's going on and usually the situation that's at." I said, "Yeah, but I always still ask and everything." He's like, "I know, but I can't, it's not like I can be upset about something and hide it." He's like, "You always can read it."
Yeah,
It's
we
occupational hazard.
and even as a coach, like in my coach training, we talk about sensory acuity a lot, and there's an exercise that we do that's probably my least favorite thing to do. I didn't like doing it in person, but I really don't like doing it online. But every time I'm done with this program, every time I go through the program and I talk to my husband, he gets in trouble because I can see the exact moment he's not listening anymore. I was like, "Oh, you're not interested. Okay."
That's why I always say, like, I'm the biggest nerd in the world, and it's like, I'll start talking about stuff, and my husband will start to glass over and be like, "Uh-huh, uh-huh," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I know, I find this stuff super exciting." I'm well aware that you do not.
It it's definitely like I just stopped looking because I'm like, I don't really I want to stuff. I don't know. You want to hear it, but I want to say it. So
You can always call me a little. I'm always excited to hear about that stuff.
thank you so much, Dr. B, for being here, for unlocking this new fascination for me, and just for everything that you're doing. Because there's a lot, like I don't know. I'm sure the studies have shown how much the we're getting diagnosed with different things, and the different sensory stuff that's been happening and the explosion of all of that. And I know that there's
Drastically,
so much
yeah.
support needed, and I'm glad that you're filling that role.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I know it's also not easy. So
No, I love my job. I'm very fortunate that I'm in a field that I love doing what I do. I love the families I work with. I love working in the schools. I love challenging cases with students. Nothing gets me more excited than when they say, "Ah, Bethany, this kid got kicked out of like a YDC. We don't have any other option. Can you make it work?" And then we're able to get him back into the general education setting. I just love every part of that. So it's what keeps me up and motivated and doing what I'm doing every day. So
and you got to have that kind of intrinsic drive in that kind of job, because it's it's not easy.
it's
And
no, and my staff are, they're with the same students every single day doing the hard work. And, I mean, they are definitely, they're changing lives. They're saving lives every single day. So I owe tons of credit to them for wanting to be in this field and being with me on this journey. Because we really, we don't want to ever see a kid given up on or a parent given up on or an educator leaving the field because of these things, because there is help and there's support out there. It's just a matter of getting it into their hands.
yeah, yeah, no, we need all the help that we can get as parents, as teachers, as children. We all need
Because we're all doing it together.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for all of your wisdom that you shared with our listeners and with me. And we will have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you all coming next week. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids, do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AlysiaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. And until we meet again, keep healing. December is beautiful, magical, cozy, and fun.
but it's also one of the heaviest months of the year for moms. We carry the holiday magic, the emotional climate of the entire household, and the to-do list that never ends. And if you've been snapping more than usual, or waking up tired, or forgetting things you normally remember, or just feeling numb, you might be missing some of the early signs that your system is crying out for rest. Today, I'm sharing the 5 biggest warning signs that you're approaching burnout and powerful, simple things that you can do instead of just pushing through. This episode is your permission slip to slow down, breathe, and reconnect with yourself. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we're actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can all still be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it.
Welcome back to Imperfect Momming. I'm your host, Alysia Lyons, and I'm really excited about this topic today. I'm recording this at the beginning of December, a month where if you weren't burned out before, you might be feeling a little stressed, a little chaotic, maybe even a little crazy. It depends on what you've said yes to, what feels aligned, and what your past experience of this time of year has been. There are so many factors that contribute to the stress of this season, and some of the stress isn't even ours. Mom burnout is something a lot of us may not have language for, but we are living it. So today I want to share 5 warning signs that you need rest, and more importantly, what to do instead of pushing through. The first warning sign that you need rest is that you're snapping at everyone over the small things. You're irritable over little things like noise, interruptions, spills, especially when those things don't normally bother you. Or you feel like you're just one moment away from erupting. I remember the first time my son snapped at me. I think he was about 8. It was like this prepubescent hormonal moment. A different version of me might have said, "Don't you dare talk to me that way." But what actually came out of my mouth was, "Hey, that's not how you normally talk to me. What's going on? Are you okay?" And that question gave him permission to say he wasn't okay, and also that he wasn't ready to talk about it yet. So we put a pin in it for later. And when we came back, he was able to tell me what happened, what upset him, and what we can do to handle it in a more supportive way. Those moments are happening every day in our homes. But when we're burned out and overwhelmed, and our kids snap at us, our default reaction is often to snap right back. And that reaction is actually a sign that we need more rest. So, what to do instead? In those moments, I want to invite you to practice the pause. Place one hand on your chest and the other on your stomach, and take 3 deep breaths. Let's do this together now. Do you feel a tiny bit calmer? I know I do. That simple pause can bring you back to this moment and into your body. I heard something today. If you're thinking about yesterday, you're angry. And if you're thinking about tomorrow, you're worried. I don't know if I 100% agree with the anger part, but it does feel accurate a lot of the time. And I know for sure that when we're thinking about tomorrow, it's usually because we're worried. Some of the times my son talks about what's happening in the future, it's usually because he's worried about it. And I'm sure you've heard that old saying that 90% of the things that we worry about don't ever happen, and the other 10% are not as bad as what we thought they would be. So
Let's practice just thinking about today, right now. What's happening in this moment? Because we spend way too much time in the past or in the future. And really, the only moment we have is this one that we're in right now. So, back to the breathing. We breathe all day long, but most of us breathe very shallowly. Our body depends on deep internal breath. So if it feels kind of weird to pause in the middle of the day and just take those 3 breaths, a couple of things you could do is step away and go to the bathroom, go to your bedroom, or step outside for a moment. The deep air from outside is going to do wonders, but it's really important to take those deep breaths and let your nervous system rest. I'll go on another little tangent here to prove just how powerful those 3 breaths can be. A couple years ago, there was a threat to my son's school district where there was a threat that was called into the high school. And my school's response is to shut down all of the schools in the district. And so these junior high kids, first year in junior high, first time this is happening, are terrified. They don't know what's going on. And one girl in my son's class was hyperventilating. And my son had just learned this calm down technique that I had taught him when he was having a stressful moment learning about math. And when the student started hyperventilating, he taught her to put her hand on her chest and her hand on her stomach and to start breathing. And she actually calmed down mid panic attack. Nothing else had changed. They weren't suddenly released. They weren't suddenly having less stress in the moment. It was simply hand on the heart, hand on the stomach, and breathing deeply that shifted everything for this little girl. So, in these moments of stress, you can also name what you're feeling. I'm overwhelmed, not angry. I'm tired. I just need a minute. This is good modeling for our children. They have these big emotions that we have too. And if you grew up in my generation, our parents didn't have these tools. They didn't have this awareness. They didn't know how to teach emotional intelligence because it wasn't taught to them. It wasn't even a thing until recently. But now that it's more mainstream, there's almost this expectation that we need to teach our children emotional intelligence. And if you weren't taught, you may not feel equipped to teach. So these are the moments where you can really ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Am I angry? And you might get a response. No, I'm not angry. I'm overwhelmed. Start giving that a try, and I guarantee you, your kids will start modeling this behavior right back to you. It's fascinating. In these moments, if there's someone that you can lean on, say, hey, I need a minute. Can you stay with the kids for a second? And if you're a single parent, believe me, I've been there. You may not always have someone physically there to tap in. Sometimes the support is texting a friend or a coach or just saying, I'm having a moment. Back to the modeling. Your kids, it's going to be the cutest thing ever when your little 3-year-old says to you, Mommy, I'm having a moment. Taking these micro breaks is something that can have a profound effect on your mood, on taking you out of that stressful moment. So, going to the bathroom, or even better, like I said, go outside for 60 seconds in the fresh air or in the silence. Sometimes that little reset is enough to keep you from erupting. And not erupting can go a long way towards eliminating guilt for the eruption that happens after the fact. The second warning sign is that you're exhausted even after sleeping. You wake up tired, your midday crash hits earlier and harder, your body feels heavy, like you're dragging yourself through the day. And a lot of us moms aren't even getting a full night's sleep. But I'm talking about those times where you do get decent sleep and you're still tired. Many of us are carrying a huge sleep debt.
which is a whole nother topic. So, what to do instead? One thing you can do is an energy check in and ask, what energy am I carrying that isn't mine? Lately, I've been doing a cord cutting practice every morning. I imagine myself gently releasing energetic cords from people I've interacted with where the connection is no longer serving me. We all have these invisible energetic cords. You know you have one with someone when you think of them and they immediately call or text you. That's connection. We want some of those cords with our kids, our spouse, people who love us, but we also pick up cords with people we've chatted with at the grocery store or the car next to us in traffic when we've had a little road rage, people we interacted with once and never saw again. I'm not going to pretend that I fully understand how it works because I don't. I just know that I've had a lot more energy since I started releasing the ones that aren't serving me. And that's actually how I language it. I ask to cut the cords of the people that are connected to me that are no longer serving me. Because again, I don't know how it works, and maybe I need a cord connected to my mom or to my friends. But when it's no longer serving me, I know that cord is going to be cut. If that feels too far out for you, that's okay. You can still ask, what energy am I carrying that isn't mine? Because we all do this. Our partner has a bad day, and suddenly we have a bad day. Our kid is anxious, and we start carrying their anxiety plus our own. Maybe your mom worried 24/7, so now you do too, even if your child isn't actually in danger all day long. Another powerful tool is gentle movement. A quick 5 to 10 minute walk can reset your nervous system. My dogs are always thrilled for a walk, and if you have kids, they're probably thrilled too. They feel your stress. Walking together gives everyone a little reset. And finally, simplify your day. Look at your to-do list and pick one thing to delegate, delay, or delete. In my business, I once had a super intricate podcast promotion schedule. I was doing way more than was necessary. And once I sat down and looked at it honestly, I was able to delegate some of it and delete a bunch of it, and everything felt lighter. At home, when I've worked longer hours, I've asked my partner, can you empty the dishwasher? Or can you handle dinner tonight? And sometimes, if you don't have someone who can cook, the answer is gather up, guys, let's get some takeout and then let someone else cook and do the cleaning. You're allowed to choose the lighter option. Delegating, delaying, and deleting the things that are on our to-do list is probably one of the most powerful tools that I've learned recently. We can delegate our chores to our children. There are age-appropriate chores at almost every age. One client that I had was delegating emptying the dishwasher to her 2-year-old. The whole dishwasher? No. But the silverware, absolutely. A 2-year-old can take silverware out of a basket and put it into a drawer. You might need to tidy it up a little bit afterwards, and maybe you don't. But that is something that's age appropriate, minus sharp knives, etc. We can use our judgment, obviously, on any of this advice that I give, but there are absolutely age-appropriate chores for almost every age. If that's something that you're interested in, let me know below and I'll get you a copy of the one that I've created. A third warning sign is that you're forgetting things that you normally remember. Walking into a room and forgetting why you're there. I think we've all done this at one point or another. My mom says it gets more frequent as you get older, but it is a sign. Maybe you're missing appointments or tasks. I know in the past when I've been working for other companies, when I wasn't getting enough sleep and my brain wasn't coming online, and it's like there's things that I know how to do and I just couldn't remember how to do it when I wasn't getting enough sleep.
You may feel scattered and then guilty on top of it. I really don't know a single mom who hasn't done the walk into a room and forget why thing. Honestly, that might be the first 5 years of motherhood for a lot of us. And those first 5 years of motherhood, we're exhausted, underslept, overworked, underpampered. And that forgetfulness makes sense. So, what to do instead? One of my favorite tools is a brain dump. Write everything down. We carry around a mental to-do list. Get it out of your head and onto paper. I can't tell you the number of times I've felt overwhelmed by my mental to-do list and then wrote it down and it turned out to be 3 or 4 things total. Half of them didn't need to be done today, some didn't need to be done at all, and others could be delayed or delegated. Your brain will lie to you and tell you it's everything all at once and it must get done now. But paper tells the truth. After you get your brain dump done, look at that list and pick a maximum of 3 things that need to get done today. Things that can't be done tomorrow, things that have a deadline, things that are really important to you. Get those things done. Don't add more to the list. We don't have to be constantly doing. We aren't human doings. We are human beings. Give yourself the permission to do 3 really important things today and let the rest go. So you can ask yourself, do I have enough food in the house to avoid a grocery run today? Will anything collapse if I don't fold the laundry right now? Is this truly urgent or just making noise in my head? 99% of the time, life doesn't fall apart because something waits another day. My sister-in-law, who has 4 kids under 7, told me something brilliant on Thanksgiving. She said the best thing she ever did was stop folding socks. She buys one brand for all 4 kids, washes them, and tosses them in a bucket, and the kids grab whatever pair they want. Honestly, that's next level momming. Simple, effective, zero guilt. I also have a client who doesn't match her socks at all. They're not all the same. They're totally different brands. It doesn't matter to her. They don't match. They're silly. She does it on purpose. And her kid, he does it on purpose too. It's fun. I think we take ourselves way too seriously sometimes. You can say out loud, I'm not failing. I'm overloaded. When you pause and reflect, you can call back your energy from places it doesn't belong and direct it to what truly matters. The 4th warning sign is feeling numb, disconnected, or checked out. And I want to add something important here. If you feel like you need a break from your kids, that's a huge sign that something needs to shift. Not because needing a break is wrong, it's not. But because needing a break from the things that normally bring you joy means you're under a level of emotional strain your system wasn't built to hold. Numbness looks like going through the motions, feeling disconnected from joy, feeling detached from your kids or yourself, blanking out during conversations, losing interest in things that used to light you up. For me, the last time I felt the most numb was during my divorce. It was over 12 years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And I was in what I call the pit of despair. Everything felt gray. I couldn't feel joy. I couldn't feel anything. I needed breaks from my son, which made me feel like a terrible mom. But looking back, nothing about that time was normal. I didn't have tools back then. I didn't know how to self-support. I was doing the best that I could with what I had. And that's why I teach this now. I wish I had those tools back then.
And I will tell you that it wasn't a snap of the finger to come out of the pit of despair. First, I started feeling not sad, which I confused for happy. But not sad isn't happy. And my partner would point out to me, "You look really depressed." And I would honestly say to him, "This is the happiest I've ever felt," because that was true. But then as I let go of more and more of the emotional weight that I'd been carrying around my whole life, I started noticing that there is a difference between not sad and happy. So what you can do instead is try a sensory reset. Light a candle, drink some warm tea, stretch, hold something soft, wrap yourself in a cozy blanket, step outside for a quick breath. Your senses are the fastest way to wake up your nervous system when everything feels muted. You can also ask your body, what do you need right now? Comfort, connection, or quiet? And then give it exactly that. I had a client going through a divorce who did a 5 senses gratitude practice every day. One thing she could see, one thing she could touch, one thing she could taste, one thing she could smell, and one thing she could hear. At first, she wasn't feeling grateful. She was just writing the words or speaking them out loud. After a few days, the feelings started to catch up. Sometimes it takes a minute for your heart to return. And if you need support, reach out. Message a safe friend, a coach, or drop a comment below. You don't have to do this alone. The 5th warning sign is overfunctioning, doing everything because it's easier to do it myself. A couple of months ago, my son told me, if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And he was telling me that I need to do it myself if I want it done right, meaning he doesn't have to do it. It was a decent effort at trying to get out of his chore. But I said, nope, I am not falling for that trap. That is the belief that creates burnout. That is the belief that traps you into doing everything for everyone. Let's talk about what overfunctioning really looks like. Taking on everyone else's tasks, carrying other people's emotions, managing every detail so no one else has to, feeling resentful while doing all the work, being the default parent by default, loading the dishwasher because no one else does it right, picking up the living room because it's faster if I do it, preventing your kids from a meltdown because you don't know how to handle their emotions. That was me, back in the pit of despair. Cleaning up messes that aren't yours, taking responsibility for things that people are perfectly capable of doing. It's exhausting and it disconnects everyone, including you, from their power. Here's what to do instead. Number 1, pause and ask, is it truly mine to carry? This task, this emotion, this responsibility. Number 2, delegate one thing today. It can be tiny, like asking your child to put their cup in the sink, but you don't have to carry it all. And number 3, practice receiving. Let someone help you without rushing in to fix it or redo it. And if someone says yes and doesn't follow through, offer a gentle reminder. Hey, do you remember when you said you would put your dish away? Could you do that now? It's so tempting to do it ourselves. And every time we do, we reinforce the belief that we have to. And that's how we burn out. I hope you found this video helpful. Comment below and tell me,
something new you learned today, or something you've heard before but want to finally implement. If you've made it to the end of this video, you are someone who truly wants more peace in your life. And I want to invite you to take my peace quiz at alysialyons.com/peace quiz. It'll show you which areas of your life need the most attention and which ones you're already doing well in. When I was in the pit of despair, all I wanted was peace. And that's what I want for you. Thanks for watching and/or listening. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AlysiaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. And until we meet again, keep healing.